Hello, my name is Miss Wofford, and I am a math coach and a math interventionist at Lincoln Heights Elementary School in Spokane Public Schools. Today's lesson is for kindergartners. Kindergartners, all we need today is you. You don't need any materials to follow along with today's lesson. Let's go ahead and get started. Our learning target today is I can compare objects, and I can describe objects as being lighter or heavier. So we're going to be describing objects today. We're going to start off with an animal. I'm going to show you a picture of an animal, and I want you to tell me what you think the animal is. What's the name of this animal? I hear some of you saying elephant. You're right. This is an elephant. What can you tell me about an elephant? You're right. An elephant has a long trunk. I heard some of you talking about the tusks. And you're right. Elephants have very, very large, floppy ears. Can you look outside your window and see an elephant right now? Probably not. Elephants don't live in Spokane. One of our animals today will be an elephant. What animal is this? Did you say a squirrel? You're right. This is a squirrel. What can you tell me about a squirrel? Squirrels do have fluffy tails, and they have fur, and they like to eat nuts. Could you look out your window today and see a squirrel? You're right. You probably could. We have lots of squirrels in Spokane. We're going to be comparing squirrels and elephants today. I have a question for you. Which animal, the squirrel or the elephant, do you think is heavier? Which animal do you think weighs more, the squirrel or the elephant? Point to the animal that you think weighs more or is heavier. Which animal do you think is lighter and weighs less, the squirrel or the elephant? Point to the animal that you think is lighter than the other. We're comparing the elephant and the squirrel. Tell someone in your family which animal is heavier. Then tell them which animal is lighter than the other. I have a question for you. Would you rather have your foot stepped on by a squirrel or by an elephant? Why? I agree. I would rather have my foot stepped on by a squirrel because a squirrel is lighter than an elephant. I think if a squirrel stepped on my foot, I might not even notice. But if an elephant stepped on my foot, I think I would get hurt. An elephant is heavier than a squirrel. Sometimes, like with the elephant and the squirrel, we can just look at an object or two objects and tell which one is heavier and which one is lighter. But sometimes we can't tell just with our eyes. So another way for a mathematician to measure if two items, which is heavier and which is lighter, is to actually pick them up. So I'm going to have some items that I'm going to pick up. I'm going to pick up this celery seed. See it right there? It's a spice. I'm going to pick up the celery seed, and then I'm going to pick up this can of tomato sauce. Which do you think is heavier? It's hard to tell, isn't it? I'm going to put them in my hands, and I can tell that this tomato sauce is heavier. It feels heavier, and the celery seed feels lighter. So I can pick up two items with my hands and tell which is heavier and which is lighter. I would like you to go find two items in your home and show them to someone in your family and tell your family which item is heavier and which item is lighter. Go find two objects. Did you find two items? One that was heavier and one that was lighter? You could feel them in your hands and you could tell. But sometimes mathematicians can't tell with their eyes and they can't tell with their hands. So mathematicians turn to a tool. There's a tool that will help us measure if something is heavier or lighter. Do you know what that tool is called? I'm going to turn my camera and show you the tool. This is a scale. It is a pan balance scale, and it's going to help us determine if something is heavier or lighter. We're going to use it as a tool today. Let's start with these two cans. I have a can of olives and I have a can of tomato sauce. They're almost the same size cans and they're both red. I can't really tell with my eyes and I'm having a hard time telling with my hands. So I'm going to use this tool to see which is heavier and which is lighter. I'm going to go ahead and put the olives on this side and the tomato sauce on this side. Which do you think is going to be heavier? Let's see. I'm going to put the olives here and the tomato sauce here, and then I'm going to let go. What happened? You're right. This side went down and this side went up. What does that mean? Point to the side that you think is heavier. You're right. This side is heavier. The olives weigh more than the tomato sauce. The olives are heavier. And I can tell because the arm of the scale went down. This arm went up. That means that this side, the tomato sauce, is lighter than the olives. If I take out the olives, look what happened. This side went up because there's nothing in there. So the tomato sauce is heavier than this empty pan. I reset the scale, and to reset the scale, I want to put it so that it's in balance. So each side is the same. Now I have a little jar of mustard and that little jar of celery seed. They're about the same height, and I can't tell with my eyes which is heavier and which is lighter. I can tell with my hands, but I know you can't feel these items. So I'm going to use the scale so you can see which item is heavier and which item is lighter. Do you think the jar of mustard in the glass or the container of celery seed that's plastic? Which do you think is going to be heavier and which will be lighter? Make your prediction to a family member. Now that you have your prediction, let's see. I'm going to put the celery seed on this side. See how the arm went down? That's because there's nothing in that pan. The celery seed is heavier than the empty pan. But now I'm going to add the mustard, and let's watch and see what happens. Which side do you think is going to be heavier? I'm going to let go. Let's see. Is that what you thought would happen? Which side is heavier? Point to the pan that has the heavier item. You should be pointing to the mustard. The mustard is heavier than the celery seed. I'm using the scale to help me measure heavier and lighter. I'm going to reset the scale so that both sides are balanced the same. And I'm going to introduce another item. This is my stuffy of Count Von Count. You might recognize Count Von Count from Sesame Street. Count Von Count is a mathematician who loves numbers. He loves numbers almost as much as I do. So we're going to put Count Von Count in one of the pans. I'm wondering if Count Von Count is heavier or lighter than the can of tomato sauce. What do you think? Let's check. Here's Count Von Count, and here's the tomato sauce. Is that what you thought would happen? Which is lighter? Yes, Count Von Count is lighter than the tomato sauce. That means that the tomato sauce is heavier than Count Von Count. Kindergartners, go get your families so we can talk about how you can explore the ideas of lighter and heavier in your own home. I'll wait. Hi, kindergarten families. Thank you for joining us at the screen today. Our targets for kindergartners were I can compare objects and I can describe objects as lighter or heavier. Those were our learning targets for today. I have a few ideas for how you could help your kindergartner explore these ideas at home. First, you can have your kindergartner just pick up 2 items. They can go around the house and find 2 different items to compare, and they can put one in their left hand and one in their right hand to determine which one is heavier and which one is lighter. Once they make that determination, make sure to have them compare the 2 items and describe them in relationship to each other. Which one's heavier and which one is lighter? Another thing you could do is to give your child an object like a shoe. Go ahead and give them a shoe, have them hold it, and then tell them to go find an item that is lighter than the shoe. So they could go on a scavenger hunt around your home and find an item that is lighter when compared to the shoe. After they find an item that is lighter than the shoe, you could task them with going around and finding an item that is heavier than the shoe. When they've found their 3 objects, have them use their vocabulary and their words to describe those objects and compare them, talking about which one's heavier, which one's lighter, and comparing them to each other. It's really important for kindergartners to get real-world experience comparing items. We want them to be able to look at items and compare them and use descriptive vocabulary for how to describe their similarities and their differences. So some vocabulary that we're looking to develop for kindergartners are length. They could describe things in length, something being shorter or longer. We want them to be able to talk about weight like we did today, describing which items are heavier and which items are lighter. And we also would like kindergartners to be able to describe height differences. So you could use objects or even people and describe them as shorter or taller. The important thing is that we give our kindergartners, our young mathematicians, lots of opportunity to compare different items. We want to look for similarities and differences and use our vocabulary to describe those differences. Thank you for joining us in today's lesson. I hope you'll join us next time in our next lesson on KSPS. In the meantime, if you're looking for ideas for how to help your kindergartner grow academically, please visit the Spokane Public Schools Learning from Home website.